Cowboys, you tuning in to the team that win. Big game, first name James, he interviewed, he called the games. Silver blue, you know the name, from the Emmitt Smith to the Michael Irv. We beating skins, shooting birds, I see a Bengal snatch it out his fur. Favorite team on the planet Earth, from Monday night to Sunday church. DJ putting in the work, I'm tuning in, no need to search. Through thick and thin and good and worse, them Cowboys, click like Cowboys, make you say wow boys, from the QBs, DTs, LBs and the Towel boys. You tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the, goddamn, they did it again, how about them Cowboys, click like Cowboys, make you say wow boys, from the QBs, DTs, LBs and the Towel boys. You tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the team that silver and blue done did it again. Cowboys, click like Cowboys, make you say wow boys, from the QBs, DTs, LBs and the Towel boys. You tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the, goddamn, they did it again, how about them Cowboys, click like Cowboys, make you say wow boys, from the QBs, DTs, LBs and the Towel boys. You tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the team that win, tuning in to the team that silver and blue done did it again.
What's good, everybody? What is good? Let me know you can hear me. Number one, got my guy DDP in here in the place to be from the Dallas Prospects and Mr. Blogging It Boys. We're about in the building. What's good with everybody? Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. You're not.
You hear me? Okay, cool.
You're kind of froze up a little bit, but I hear you.
Okay, I'm just making sure we good. I might go in and out, but what's good, everybody? Jay Lombardi, Jamal Porter, Boothang, Carlos Holloway, Marquise Hotteston, the Ninja going crazy about his championship he won in the first annual Big Game James Members Fantasy Football. I got to give him a plaque. Second place, Jim Laws came in the consolation prize. We got something for you, too. We're going to have that little members meeting. But good to see everybody in the building. Hey, ho, KMT, everybody, good to see y'all. Troy, Dudley, all y'all. It's good to see y'all back in the building. Come on, get in here. I can't go live on Facebook because they blocked me. Facebook blocked me for a week, so I can't go live on Facebook. I think they blocked me for my rant. I had like about 2 or 3 rants, even on my Facebook. So they, you know how they are. I went to go live, and they're like, "You're blocked for a week." So come on in here, YouTube today, and jump on into business, and let's talk some Cowboys football, especially DDP. These Cowboys are finally back in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us thought, I thought it was probably going to be them Cardinals again. We saw that crazy Sunday yesterday with them Rams and Niners. The Niners, it looked like the Rams was about to just blow them out. You know what I mean? Cardinals going to be back in Dallas. And then them boys came out of nowhere in that second half and brought it home. And now it's a rivalry renewed. Cowboys, Niners. This it's Sunday, right? This Sunday, 4:30?
Yeah. Sunday.
Okay, this Sunday, 4:30. What's up, sis? How you feeling about that? How you feeling about seeing the Niners?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting setup because on one hand, I do think it's a better matchup. Garoppolo does not scare me in the same way that I think Kyler Murray. And we talked about this obviously when we talked before about the Cardinals game. Kyler Murray can bring just a handful of plays. Just the improv skill is so off the charts. And, even at the end, they had 4.5 minutes. You're down 3. Your defense just has to get the ball back 4.5 minutes, and they start finally breaking out the RPO, and he's just able to milk the entire clock, and that's all it is. So that's the kind of stuff that he can bring to the table. You don't have that same threat with Garoppolo. That said, I do think that in other areas, San Francisco poses a bigger threat than the Cardinals. I think in the trenches, they are better. And I think that's going to be difficult. They're a run first team. So as you mentioned, you and I were texting about it a little bit. If they're able to control the clock a little bit, and you can run on our defense a little bit. So if they're able to win in the trenches and control the game a little bit with Mitchell, their rookie running back there, then that's going to be a problem for them. Garoppolo's a lot of short passes, and as long as you're swarming and sure tackling, I feel good. But there's no such thing as an easy matchup in the NFC.
Yeah, everything that you said, I feel you correctly, and then listen to the people in the comments. Carlos Holloway. I don't know if Trent Williams is playing, because if he is, that's going to be big for the Niners. But you mentioned a few things, and we had already talked about the trenches. That's the first thing I thought of when the Niners were going to play Dallas. Nobody's scared of the Niners, but guess what? They do have Nick Bosa's pretty good, and he's going to be on what? That is he going to be on Tyron Smith's side, left side?
I think so, yeah.
All right,
And
he might
you
be
mentioned Trent
switching.
Williams. Has a quote chance to play.
Okay, because I know he had been sitting out the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
and they really need him. So, but Bosa is going to, that front. They got Armstead. He had a couple sacks in that Rams game. Bosa had half a sack. I'm not sitting there saying I'm scared of him, but guess what? That front line is what brought them back and won that game for them.
Yep.
That pressure that they were giving Matthew Stafford in that second half brought them back. So one of the things the Cowboys have had problems with this year is when teams have got really physical up front. That's just the truth. Nobody's scared. It's just what I've seen this year and what we have seen as collectively. So that's why I said the Cowboys have to come prepared, especially this offensive line. Philbin, talk to your guys this week. Joe Philbin, talk to your guys this week and say, we need to go out there and let everybody know we are a physical team, because I feel like the team has gotten finesse with the Kellen Moore scheme. And we've seen that when Cowboys run under 20 attempts, they lose. When they run over 20 attempts, they win. So basically stay with the run game. And it may be a little tough in these trenches, but I feel like if you can dominate those trenches and really neutralize a Bosa or the Armstead, then I feel good as well. Obviously, they have Fred Warner, but we know about their secondary being suspect. We're going to talk more about that. But one thing you alluded to, I'm just kind of flipping, but they want to be that ball control, because like you said, Garoppolo is not a guy that's just going to kill you, in the air. He will turn the ball over. I think he's not the greatest. If you get it from the back like Parsons, sack fumbles, that's what a Garoppolo will do. But like you said, they want to slow the game down. Kittles, the motion, things of that nature. We're going to have to start those edges, things of that nature. Going to have to hold those edges down. And like you said, we're not a dominant run defense. You can get runs on us. So it's going to be real, real interesting right there, just in that aspect, to watch how that game unfolds.
Oh, for sure. And I think, to get to your point about the carries, they got to get some touches for Tony Pollard. I mean, they said that they expect him to go at this point. They kept him out. Philadelphia, one of the only guys they were seemingly willing to rest, although I think he also had some midweek illness. I think he was one of those guys that had a non-COVID related illness during the week, but I think they listed him for the foot. So they think he'll be good to go. I think they need to make sure that they get him some touches. That was part of what went kind of sideways in the Arizona game, was just the touches were just terrible for the running game. Like Zeke had, I think you had like 9 total rushes there. Like Dak was your leading rusher. You can't have that and be productive. You have to have some kind of balance. I'm not saying it's impossible to win with Dak having to throw it 40 plus times. It's just not ideal. You don't want to play those percentages. But the problem is, you mentioned Philbin, they got to get the run game going. They got to actually be able to win in the trenches and bully guys the way that we haven't really seen them do a whole lot of in the second half of the season, until this Philadelphia game, which Zeke had like 86 yards in the finale, something like that, to barely nudge over 1,000 for the year. So kudos to him for that. He's the only other guy to do that. 1,200 yards from scrimmage his first 6 consecutive seasons is LaDainian Tomlinson. So cool for Zeke to get that. But for Zeke's production overall, like the last 11 weeks of the season, he had like one game over 57 yards. Like they have to have a bounce. And if you're not going to get more from Zeke, you got to get it from Pollard. You have to be willing to let Pollard try to open some things up for you, because that's the only way you keep pressure off of Dak. And on the other side of the ball, you mentioned Parsons. The thing with the 49ers, because Garoppolo's not going to kill you a lot over the top, he's going to take a lot of short passes, which means the ball's getting out quick. And he's got guys, whether it's Kittles or Samuel,
Debo, right?
Debo, who will kill you in yak. That's why it's so important to be sure tackling, swarm to the ball and sure tackling. If you can keep it in front of you, you're in a pretty good position. The Cowboys have generally been a really good tackling team this year. And if they can do that, I still feel pretty good about their odds, but it's not an easy matchup. Like the more I looked at it today, the more I thought like, man, I don't think I was necessarily giving the 49ers their full credit
Yeah, I
when
mean,
I saw
people.
the scenario come down end of Sunday night.
I mean, you know what? A lot of people were, and as I go back to this DDP, this was never a scare. This is just like, hey, when people are like, oh yeah, we got the Niners. No, you had to really look at the tape. If you really look at their losses, they weren't by bad teams.
No.
Okay. And they were barely losses. They lost to the Chiefs by 1 point. They lost to the Green Bay Packers by 2 points in the last minutes of the game. You know what I mean? Like they weren't, they weren't getting blown out the water. They lost to the Cardinals 17-10, but that's when the
Yep.
Trey Lance was playing. You know what I mean? They lost to the Seahawks. These were teams that were formidable teams. So it's not like they were losing to quote unquote really under 500 teams. So people have to look at that. And like I said, they got some weapons. Debo Samuel, he's a weapon. They're going to be sending him in motion. They're going to be motioning him everywhere. And as I said before, Kyle Shanahan, he's going to go crazy in this game. You know what I mean? In my opinion, DDP, he's going to go crazy in this game. He's going to let it all out. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at the Cowboys. And I just want the Cowboys to match that same energy. I need Kellen Moore, that offensive line. Match that energy when y'all running the ball. I don't want to see Nick Bosa blowing through the line and blowing up a play from Ezekiel Elliott. You feel me? And then it's a 2-yard loss. And then you're going to 2nd and 12 and 2nd and 13. That's what I'm not trying to see. So that's why I keep on saying offensive line. That's the thing keep coming in my head, DDP. I'm sorry. That's the only thing keep popping in my head. Offensive line. Because if that offensive line handles its business, I feel good. Because just like you said, there's going to be a little way to go with that offense that, with Samuel, but you can stop it. We have the players to stop it. You have Diggs, you have Michael Parsons now. You have players along the defensive line that can sit there and contain, especially with DeMarcus Lawrence back. You got guys that can do that now. So they don't really scare me. Their offensive line, I feel like we can handle. Like I said, if we jump on them and stuff that offensive line and make them where he's got to throw and challenge us, then I like that. My main thing is we got to give Dak time. Dak can't be scrambling and moving all in that pocket, running from Bosa or Armstead. And we got to give
too much.
He presses too much. We got to give him that time. And as you said, DDP, ultimately, I want to see Dak around that 35 or lower passing, and I want to see 25, 20 and up in rushing. I feel like if you have that formula right there, that's the winning formula for Dallas moving forward. And I feel like you're not beating Dallas when you're doing that. Because to me, Dak is so much efficient. When you see him throwing around 27, 30 times a game, he's usually like 25 of 30 or 22 or 27. He's very, very efficient when he throws those numbers because play action is big. Your running game is good. He's more controlled in the pocket, and it's more cleaner for him, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And, another thing I want to see from this team is I want to see them come out fast.
Yes.
When this team has come out slow, when the offense has kind of dragged along the first couple possessions, it's been a harder day. It's been a longer process for them to ramp up. And that's how you end up with those weird games where, like the Arizona thing, suddenly you're going to the half with 7 points. And it's like, with everything on the line for what you stood to gain from this game, how are you executing that poorly? And so it's huge that this team come out and jump out to an early lead. If you let this defense pin its ears back, it will have a field day. but ultimately your pass rush has to get home. Like Micah Parsons is what takes this from a middle of the pack to a top 10 defense easily, arguably top
Right.
5 when it's firing all cylinders. I
Yeah.
am a little bit concerned. We've seen a couple games now where Randy Gregory's been kind of limping around a little bit,
Yeah, I've been
and I
seeing
don't
that
feel
too.
like yeah, and I don't feel like he's getting quite the same pressure. He's still making plays, but it's not the complete dominance that we saw from him, where he was just living in the quarterback's face for weeks there throughout the season. And so that is something of concern for me. And that is one of the reasons why I didn't really like them playing him in particular in the Philadelphia game. It's like, dude, if you had a reason, now I get it, they moved up from 4-3, but it's like if you had someone to make an easy argument for resting a little bit, you feel like it'd be your star pass rusher who's a little bit gimpy right now because of the leg. But they rolled the dice the way they did, and they're going to try and feed off of the confidence. And so now they need to come out and they need to start fast, because if they come out flat, it's going to be very difficult, because San Francisco is going to try to get
They're
out.
gonna feed off of that. I'm
Mhm.
trying to
Oh,
tell you,
demoralize.
they
They will
they
demoralize you with the
are
run game.
they are going to feed on that. You know, I was just watching them in certain games that they played, and when that defensive line starts getting in that where they're stopping people, they get real animated in it. So that's why I said keep them boys at bay, crush them boys early. But the thing is, when you got to look at the Niners, and it's funny, I was listening to Brian Broaddus today. I don't know if you had seen it, where he was like, "Listen, we don't hate the Dallas Cowboys, but we're going to tell you points that you might not like. So don't get bitter. Don't
Mhm.
get in your feelings. We're just talking, we're just media. We're seeing points. And this is what I'm saying too. Like, nobody's pumping up the freaking San Francisco 49ers. We're just telling you what it really is, though. I mean, you are seeing these things. So it's not nothing fake or anything like that. But if the Cowboys jump on them early, like you said, start fast, get on them early, I feel good. But I also seen too, DDP, when with that Rams game they came back, I seen the Packers were on them 17-7, and they came back in that game. So
Mhm.
you can't just sit there and get a lead on them and feel comfortable,
Right.
because they can come back.
Oh, yeah.
They've shown it this year.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to look at the context of that, look at the last time the Cowboys had a meaningful playoff game, 2018 against the Rams. They scored first. Amari Cooper hit a strike for like 25, 30-yard touchdown from Dak. And that game then turned into, I mean, the Cowboys made a late push to kind of make it look respectable, but that turned into a little bit of a bludgeoning. That was the DeMarcus Lawrence telling Jared Goff, I'm going to snatch your soul, and then doing nothing of consequence in the game. And not only that, the Rams ran for like 250 yards. They had like both back, or like more than that. They had like both backs go for like 400 total yards. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
obscene, the
Right.
the ground attack. And now obviously that's been a while, but my point is, yeah, sometimes you start quick with like, oh, look at that first drive. You can't script a better start than that. And then the tide
It's
turns,
snowball.
because
Right.
yeah, you're feeling yourself a little bit too much. The other team counter punches, and it's like you get knocked back, and you're like, oh, I didn't really expect that to happen. And they never really got situated again. This team has shown flashes of tremendous resilience. I mean, both of these teams have. The 49ers, as you mentioned, those examples, Cowboys at New England, at Minnesota, they've shown it, but it's been a minute. And we've
Mm-hmm.
seen times where they've made late pushes, the
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals game, but they didn't quite get over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
You could say like, hey, if the fumble's called on the field, maybe they do, and maybe we're suddenly adding one more to the list. But it remains the case is like they've shown resilience, but you can't focus on a late rally to try and save you from the fire. You have to actually, execute and get throughout the game and throughout your game plan and be dialed in. You can't just wait for something to finally happen, because that's when you get Dak pressing and you start running into mistakes.
Yeah, and that's what I don't want. I don't want to feel like that when Dax feel like he got to press. That's what I don't want. Just listen to some of the comments in there, DDP. I remember when Dallas played the Niners last year. Dallas kind of whooped on them, didn't they? Tony Pollard
Mhm.
had that big run in that second half, but one of that San Francisco game, they had a lot of people missing. They had a lot of people that were out of that game. So I felt like that was a little bit of a difference as well too. But everybody's pretty not super healthy, but tell me some keys in your opinion from the defensive side. Who do you think? Obviously, Micah Parsons, but what do you think that we can really attack them to really kind of keep them down? What's a matchup that you see that this is a matchup we really need to attack on their offensive side?
I think because the 49ers know that obviously with the way they attack, it's going to be more quick strikes. I think they're going to try and use Dallas's urgency and speed against them a little bit. And they're going to try and get them off balance a little bit, flying to the ball. And they're going to try and, kind of go the other way with it. And with that being the case, I think your secondary is going to have to play big. Now, I'm very intrigued by what we've seen out of Kelvin Joseph. A little bit of sticky, cornerback play. I think you're going to need quality play out of your secondary here, because I really think you're going to have to try and do everything in your power to keep Kittle and Samuel in check. Kittle, fifth in receiving yards this year, 1,400 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns of 10 plus yards, which led the NFL, and leader in yards per reception at 18.3. Like, these guys, Garoppolo might not go over the top a whole lot, but he's got weapons that will make the plays for him. And so it kind of masks what he needs to do. And so I think that's why the secondary is, for me, the biggest focus for Dallas. They have to swarm to the ball, and they have to make sure tackles. None of that arm stuff. None of Traylon Diggs. He's a very talented ball hawk, but we've seen questionable tackling for him at times. We can't have that here. If he's not picking off the pass, he needs to be wrapping up.
I agree because when you just say that, as far as and now check this out. You just said that, right?
I did say that.
No, I was just looking because his missed tackles are the highest percentage on the team. Behind with most snaps, he has the highest percentage of the missed tackles. He had in the secondary, like 10 missed tackles, 16.1%. And we've seen that he sometimes won't break down, or it's kind of like he won't jump out there and get physical. Like we know he can, but it's just kind of the technique is kind of lacking. Like he won't put the full effort in. Like you said, there has to be short tackling because they're going to send those guys in motion. They're going to be coming on the edges. They're set for the blocking. Cowboys really have to run to those edges and really shut those edges down, because they're going to be trying to come to it with Deebo Samuel. I mean, I've seen them in the so many games where they're sending them in motion down there every single play. So they're trying to throw you off with those type of matchups. And I just feel like if the this is the game where the Cowboys are nonstop DDP, are going to have to continue to apply pressure. You don't have to really kill them with blitzes, because Dallas is not a super big blitz team, but they're a heavy pressure team. So this is going to have to be a game where every time Garoppolo is backing up, he's feeling that pressure. Every time he's going in that pocket, we are getting pressure on him, because I feel like the more pressure we get on him, I feel like that's when those turnovers, DDP, can come in waves for us, and then we can really start rolling, especially at home. Dallas really needs to get some turnovers. I know we were talking about Dak getting in a good rhythm, offense getting in a rhythm. I think this is a game where Dallas has been tops all year, right, DDP? Tops all year in turnovers. Interceptions like 25, 30 over 35 turnovers. You've been tops in the league all year. In these playoffs, you have to show it as well. You can't go all season being the tops in turnovers, and then when you get to the playoffs, none of that stuff happens. So this is a perfect game. This is your one home game, right? So you really got to – you most likely – so you want to go ahead and go in there and say, let's turn up this game. Let's defense really set the tone, and really offensive line set the tone. But the defense, we need to get an early turnover. If Dallas gets that early turnover, I feel good too.
Well, here's the thing about that, and this is the good news, is Garoppolo's going to give you opportunities. If you look at his last 6 games, it's 7 touchdowns, 6 picks, sacked 11 times, fumbled 3 times. Your opportunities are going to be there. It's just a matter of capitalizing on them. And obviously the Cowboys being the defense that forces the most turnovers, that's the greatest strength of the team. Like, their third down defense, except for the last couple of weeks, have been kind of sketchy. The third down defense was great all season, and then their ability to take the ball away. As long as they're able to do one of those things, they're in good position. If they can do both of them, then yeah, you're in for a big, big day from the defense, and that's going to really put the offense in a good position to succeed. But there are still things in this game that are concerning to me. Obviously, we can keep talking about the kicker situation all day, and now they're talking about how like, oh well, we have full confidence in Zerline, and we think it's psychological, but we haven't
Oh
really helped him
man.
figure out his rhythm. Something about an off-season back surgery, and it's just like, dude, I I don't know how I feel about going into a playoff game, and any playoff game, to be clear, you might have to rely on your kicker ultimately for one big kick. And I just don't have any faith. I mean, he's missed what, 6, 7 extra points this year
Hmm.
and like 5 or 6 field goals. Like,
6 field goals, 6 extra points. I
yeah,
think it might be. I don't know if it's 7 now because I saw the stats. So I think I definitely it's 6 and 6, 6 extra
yeah,
points, 6 field goals for sure.
yeah. And that's a good thing his jersey isn't number 6 as well then.
Man,
But but yeah, it's that's a major concern for me still. I mean, I feel generally good about a lot of parts of this team. I feel good about, one of the biggest X factors I think is Cedric Wilson. Like, I
uh-huh.
think we were so excited getting Michael Gallup back because we saw, hey man, the offense is firing on all cylinders and everything's great. Oh wow, Cedric Wilson's there, but Michael Gallup's coming back and like, oh, we're just going to be that much more dominant. We were this good with Wilson. Imagine once we upgrade to full strength and Wilson can go back to being the number 4 guy.
Mhm.
I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, aside from the Atlanta game, did we really have a dominant offensive? I mean, I know the Redskins game, the second one went that way, but like a dominant offensive performance day after that switch, it seemed like all of the dominance of the offense, when people were talking about like, oh man, Cowboys offense is there and the defense is there, all came in like the first part of the season when we were waiting for Gallup to come back.
Yeah.
And then Wilson comes back like at Philadelphia and 2 touchdowns, 100+ yards. Like, it kind of simplifies things
Yeah.
because it keeps CD and Amari set outside. Sometimes when you have 3 guys that are capable of moving all around, you're like, oh, look at all the options. Look at all the misdirection we can do, but you overcomplicate it. And for a team that has talked about, hey, communication hasn't really been ideal. Like, we're having issues, especially Dak and CD, I noticed, don't seem to be on the same page nearly often enough. And so it's like, for a team with those kind of issues, it kind of makes sense to just like, okay, well, Cedric Wilson's there. He's purely the slot, and CD and Amari are outside. Everybody's got one spot. Just focus on that. And it seems like it's kind of unlocking things again, which, it's hard to base everything on just that Philadelphia game given the circumstances of it. But there's something there. There's something to Cedric Wilson, what he's bringing to this offense.
I definitely agree with you, and we're gonna touch that right here in a second. I'm gonna give this super chat from my dog with the 499 holla Pee Wee. He says, and this is a good question because Jennings was turning up yesterday. That Juwan Jennings was it Juwan Jennings? He was turning up. He think he had 6 catches for 96 yards. So how do you think we handle Jennings with Diggs on Debo, Parsons with Kittles? Do you think Jennings can? Do you think with Jennings can AB hold his own or give him help? Because I don't think even when you're talking about Jennings, he may be lined up with some Jordan Lewis. I worry about that one. Now, I don't want no Jennings near no Jordan Lewis because I feel like Jordan Lewis gonna get some business. I don't hate on no Jordan Lewis, but even AB that's here's the thing with that. Before we talk about this offense,
Yep.
Anthony Brown has played ridiculous this year. A career
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm-hmm.
I've been screaming it. Career year. Jordan Lewis has played very good this year for, when he signed his deal. I ain't going to say very good. He played good this year.
I think it's still a career year for him, though. It might not
Yeah.
have all been sensational, but you got to keep in mind the bar wasn't super high before. He had flashes before.
Yeah. Jordan, you can cook him, though. I just feel like you can. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like you can. So going into the playoffs, we've seen Kelvin Joseph, but he's a rookie. He ain't seen no playoffs. And we saw when he went against some Devontae Smith, he was giving him a little bit of work. And I like Joseph, but he was getting a little bit of work there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a little bit of my concern right there when Pee Wee mentions that Jennings matchup because yeah, AB's played better, but he's still Anthony Brown, dog, and these playoffs is gonna be a little bit different. So I'm a little my antennas are up because I was watching that Jennings and Pee Wee brought that up. I'm gonna keep it real. When that's one guy I was kept on watching that game, I'm like, man, dog, we play him. You're gonna have to keep an eye on that one right here because he was
Yeah.
playing hard, he was running hard, and I don't want him jumping in that third guy where Jordan Lewis got to deal or handle with him.
Mhm.
You got to short tackling Malik Hooker, Demonte Casey, Donovan Wilson. Our safety play has to be really good in this game. Even though they don't challenge deep, it's still our safety play has to be good. Kurt's coming back to that
Yeah.
line of scrimmage playing that big nickel, but our safety play has to be good. All the way around corner play, but those safeties got to be able to give them that backup help so they feel confident where they can play. We're not giving up any big plays over the top.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And the good thing there is if you're able to get a little bit of help from your offense, then you won't have to ask as much of your defense. I don't want to have to ask my defense to hold San Francisco. Ideally, I don't want to have to ask them to hold them below 20. If they do, phenomenal. Then at that point, there's no excuse for the offense. But I would rather the offense be able to produce in a way where it's like, okay, let's be opportunistic and let's try to control the game in that way with some of these big plays, try and break their spirit, or to retroactively quote Demarcus Lawrence, snatch their soul. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's put them in a hole, a 14-3 hole, and then have a Diggs interception or a Micah Parsons sack fumble. Let's hit them with big plays like that. That's the thing. The Cowboys defense, it's not a bunch of body blows that add up. It seems like it's usually like the wind up knockout punch. You might not see it coming necessarily, but it's not wearing you down in the same way. It kind of seems like they're biding their time to hit with a big play. And in the games where they hit those shots, yeah, it goes Dallas's way. And in the games where they don't, then it's like, ooh, okay, offense, what do you got? And if your offense is able to execute a little bit, then you don't have to worry as much about those, landing those blows. So one thing I'm interested in, Dak Prescott we see the fumbles, right? We've seen the couple of times where he's pressed too hard and tried to scramble and fumble. The Washington game or the Giants game had one, and then so did the Cardinals game. The Cardinals won brutal. That ended up basically being the difference in the game. But as the graphic they put on the screen this past Saturday, I had to correct myself. I almost said Sunday. Showed us since week 15, Dak has completed 70% of his passes for 1,068 yards, 13 touchdowns, no picks. So the two fumbles stand out in our mind and make it seem bad. But Dak does seem to quietly be finding a little bit of rhythm, and he is doing a better job protecting the ball. So that could go a long way for Dallas to that end.
Yeah, that ball control, like I said, I just keep on hearing these words ring to me. If Dallas comes in there physical, that's the word I keep coming in me. Dallas needs to play physical, not
Mhm.
just fast. They need to play physical. They need to match because Niners gonna come in there because they're gonna feel like we just snuck in the playoffs. Y'all got more pressure on y'all. We're gonna play more loose. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Niners ain't got no pressure on them right now. They can lose and be like, okay, well, because they snuck in. There's going to be the more pressure on the Cowboys because everybody's going to be out there saying you're one and done. That's the pressure that's going to be over Dallas, the one and done. Everybody's going to be sitting there watching it, and that's what they're going to be saying. So that's what the main word to me, match, come in there with that physicality. If you come in there with that physicality and punch them in the mouth, I feel really good about these Cowboys. But when we're going about that offense, I had mentioned that a couple of days ago, DDP, about how the offense, no hate on Gallup, but when Cedric Wilson came back in,
Mhm.
it felt almost to me, just to me, from my perspective, like there wasn't forcing. It felt natural.
Yeah.
Like there was no forcing of the ball anywhere, you know, and because it's real, in my opinion, Michael Gallup was playing for a contract too. He just came back from injury. He's still trying to get his contract. He's in a contract year. He's still, you know what I
So is
mean?
Wilson technically, but yes.
Yeah, so is Wilson because he only signed on that. So they're trying to get as much as they want to win. Let's keep it real. As much as they want to win and get catches, they want to get contracts and get paid too.
Mhm.
So I feel like when Gallup came back, I felt like maybe it was just felt forced. It wasn't
Right.
offense was good, but it wasn't natural and humming like it was before. Also, Blake Jarwin coming back was huge as well. People jumping out there, Marcus Marshall talking about the block. Ain't nobody talking about that, dog. But that 12 personnel, that
Mhm.
personnel of CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, and Blake Jarwin was working. And it was working very good. That offense was very, very efficient. And I like it. And you could slide Cedric Wilson on the outside and still slide CeeDee Lamb in the slot or Amari Cooper in the slot. You can
Mhm.
still be versatile like that. But the thing I love is that when Wilson's out there, he doesn't play like I got to get the ball every time.
Sure.
And I feel like that really lets Dak play more freer. I don't have to force the ball to you. So
Right.
you know what I mean? But you're reliable. So I don't have to force it. And Cedric ain't tripping like that. So I think it just makes it easier on the offense. And I don't know, man. If we can see what we saw in Philly because of that personnel, I really am excited to see how it's going to go against the Niners. But once again, DDP, that line has got to take care of his business. And
Right.
if that line take care of his business, then we could see that explosion again, the 40 points or the 50 points, because the offense has the potential to do it every time it comes on the field.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, we talked about the offense kind of being on that really humming in that rhythm for a while, and then Gallup kind of coming back and things kind of taking a minute to figure out. And they talked about like, well, hey, Dak obviously missed all of training camp basically. So they didn't really get a lot of that time, all of them working together. But Gallup had missed so much time earlier in the year that they kind of figured some things out, right? Dak and Amari in particular were sensational in the opener against Tampa Bay. But then against the Chargers the next week, it was kind of modest. They won like a 20-17 game on a walk-off field goal. And it took a minute for the offense to really click into gear. And then once it did, it was kind of off and going. Had a stretch of 6-7 weeks, however long Gallup was out, where everything was just humming along. And then it kind of got interrupted. And now it's resuming that. And Jarwin coming back is another great weapon that, as you said, they had a lot of success when they had both of their tight ends at their disposal. Schultz has had a career year, but Jarwin is, I think, a very underrated weapon as well, even if he's not a good blocker. He's a
Right.
very good weapon for them to have. Dak likes the slot receivers. He has a better trust and rapport with Schultz. And this is something that I think Kavanaugh was mentioning on The Fan earlier today. He has a better rapport with Schultz and with even Cedric Wilson. Frankly, like you might look at it and say like, oh, 3rd and 6, we need to convert this. We'd like to say like, all right, well, the ball's going to Amari or the ball's going to CeeDee. It feels more likely he's going to look for Schultz or he's going to look maybe even right now for Wilson. There's some kind of rapport there between Dak and Wilson, and the security blanket tied in thing with Schultz now, where that seems to be where he looks first before he looks to the star receivers, which is a kind of weird dynamic, but it's like as long as it's working, I guess. But I would love to see Dallas feed Amari Cooper the way other teams feed their star receivers.
Feed them first. Feed them
Yes.
first. Just give them the ball early and often, because these are my thoughts and my opinion. And
Right.
that in DDP in that game against the Green Bay Packers that the Niners lost to, I made the post. Devontae Adams got 18 targets in that game.
Mhm.
18. He had 12 catches for about $135 and a touchdown. 18 targets. Now they shut down Aaron Jones pretty nice. I don't think he went crazy, but Aaron Rodgers was making some dime throws, but he was hitting them deep. He was dissecting that coverage. So the openings are going to be there, but Amari needs that ball early. Let's just keep it real. He gonna sulk. He gonna sulk if he don't get that ball early. He is. I don't care. Nobody gonna tell me. Nobody gonna tell me he not. He gonna sulk and his head not gonna be all the way in the game. You need to get him that ball early, 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 You don't have to give him like 12 freaking catchers or nothing like that, but he
No.
got to get that attention early. If we're going to go for some quick passes, Amari's got to get it first. Let him get in that game. And then once he starts getting in the game, he's into it. And you can see when he's playing, he's into it. It opens up for everybody else, in my opinion. It opens up for CD underneath. Then Wilson can really turn up. You start hitting Amari. You see CD underneath. And then what do we see out of nowhere? Wilson will get a big, long 50 or 60-yard play. And we're like, Cedric Wilson out. You know what I mean? That's how that offense starts cooking. So, yeah, like you said, it's a weird dynamic when he wants to. I don't want you going to Schultz early. I don't want you
No.
throwing to see. I want you going to Amari Cooper early. Let him get his touches early, get him feeling good in the game, and then we rolling. I told going into these playoffs, DDP, and you mentioned at the very beginning of the show, I said 2 people that need to get this ball in these playoffs is Tony Pollard and Amari Cooper. 12 to 15 touches. If you can get it to Pollard in that game, and Amari got to touch that ball early. Those 2 guys get that ball. That's the explosion. That's what Dallas needs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's they need to set the tone early, and that's the way you do it. Is you get to your big play threats. If you can work in some CD Lamb in there, great. Because I think that CD, even though the drops have been a little bit of a problem for him this year, I think he's been kind of criminally underused at other times this season. He still went over 1,000 yards. Amari wasn't able to do that, but it's one of those things where he's got a lot more big play ability. You saw the one play he's ricocheting in the Eagles game off of guys spinning off of big hit tackles and everything, and a big gain. Like, he's capable of doing that 3-4 times a game. It feels like most weeks. I don't know what that is. I mean, I mentioned earlier, him and Dak don't always seem to see things the same way. Like, they don't always make the adjustments. Like, CD will run something like, well, why'd you throw it over there? And Dak's like, why didn't you run your route cleaner?
Yeah, I think not to cut you off, DDP, but I think he got to get better in his route running. He got to really work with Amari Cooper in this offseason, because just where you just said that, I see a lot of times where it's like when like you said, they're not on the same page. And I'm like, I watch CD's routes and I'm like, you got to clean them routes up better. Like, you're making it obvious for that defender to guard you. You got to clean up and make your routes. And I think that's why Amari Cooper is so surgical, because you don't know what that dude is doing. Where I see CD Lamb, that's where he needs to step his game up and make it more disguise
Crisp.
it, because right now it's not crisp. He rounds them out, and it makes the defender easier to guard him. And those plays where you'll see him tip it and the guy's right on him is because I feel like you got to run a better route, CD. So you got to step up in that aspect. So I agree with you with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I saw someone in the chat with a comment earlier talking about how San Francisco will crash the edges and you can kind of beat them with screens to the running backs. I mean, for Pollard, you have the burst, but the Cowboys haven't really executed screens well in general this year. Like, they've had a couple times where it's been all right, but it just feels like in recent years that has not been their bread and butter. So unless they're like really holding on to like an ace up their sleeve or something like that to get Pollard out in space, which, by the way, I would love. I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel like that plays into our strength as far as executing it. I think you definitely got to try it, but I don't know that that's going to be the answer for something that you can continually hit them with.
Yeah, I know our screen game sucks, and a lot of people in the chat saying it sucks, but I feel like this: you still got to throw it in there here and there. You can't just throw it away, because there has been some plays where our screen game has worked. So don't make
Especially
the
with this
obvious
team
one.
struggle with holding. That's where screens is also a little bit concerning. It's like, oh, you might finally break one, but there's a hold, and now it's 3rd and 11 instead.
I feel that. I just feel like, don't go crazy with the screens, but I feel like you still need to throw them in there, wide receiver screens. Feel like you can have to watch how the game is going. Don't just make it obvious. See how the game and the flow of game is going before you throw them in there. And also, DDP, I think you need to have 2 running backs in there named Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard.
Yeah,
Throw
2
them
back-to-back, yep.
off. I haven't seen that 2-back system like that, consistently all year. I need to see it in these playoffs, because ain't nobody seen it all year, right? So when we're talking about, is he being Kellen Moore being vanilla? Is he not showing everything? Well, that's something that we ain't really seen a lot. Can I see that in the playoffs? Can you come out there with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott and they like, okay, what are they doing? Let's show them some different looks and don't just do it once. Do it some consistently out there.
Mm-hmm.
Show it multiple times out there so they don't understand what's going on and they don't know what you're doing. Because, like you said, the offense has become predictable in certain things. And to me, when I heard Brian Broaddus saying Kellen Moore don't have a plan because he says he have a certain plan to come out, but when a team stops him or punches him in the mouth, he don't have the counter move. And we seen it this year. We've seen him not be able to come back with the counter move, and then the offense gets stagnant. Okay, so that's what I want to really see, in my opinion. Get a little creative with that. Throw them two backs in there, mix and match some stuff. This is your time to really show you a boy wonder. Show it in these playoffs.
He's definitely got a lot of exotic looks and stuff. Like we've seen flashes of brilliance as far as creativity. And yeah, he's got to have something because for how long he's been teasing the Connor McGovern touchdown reception. Obviously, Terrence Steele is who ended up getting that play when they finally did it. But it's like for how long he's been teasing that. Yeah, teams have seen generally that look at this point. So now I want to see like, okay, you've been teasing this and putting all the attention on this. Have a couple other tricks, on standby waiting and bring out something else. Like, yeah, especially for him. Cause I mean, for Kellen Moore, you talked about it. Like it's a human nature thing. It's not just like, hey, players are playing for their next contract because they understand, hey, I'm in a contract year. Michael Gallup might have been pressing a little bit at times. And I'm not trying to beat up on Gallup. I love Gallup as a receiver.
It's real.
Yeah. It's like, he might be pressing a little bit because he knows, hey, I'm in a contract year and I just missed like 6 weeks with a calf strain and the team didn't look like it missed a beat without me. So there's an urgency there.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for the coaching staff. Kellen Moore is like, hey, I got all these people wanting to interview me and one loss, our season ends. So if I got, all this gold, I need to have it on standby on a big stage to use it. So I expect to see 2 or 3 very creative looks from him. Now, maybe that's a little ambitious, especially depending on how the game is going, but because you don't want to throw everything out there in the first game if you're able to win. But it's one of those things that I think he has to give a couple really creative looks, like this what was it? It was this delayed pass to Zeke that game against the Giants at home, just the misdirection and everything, and Zeke walks it in on the opening possession, I think it was, for the Cowboys. Like things like that, it's just a thing of beauty where as it's developing, you're just like, oh, holy crap, that was awesome. Like he's got to have 1 or 2 of those ready for this game, I think. And the Cowboys have to find a way to make sure they execute those plays. So I think Kellen Moore's got everything on the line. Quinn's got a lot too, but I think Kellen Moore especially, because we've seen more cracks in that whole display than we have with the defense and Quinn.
Totally agree. And just like you said, we saw one bad game in the playoffs can just take your whole name out the bag. We seen what happened with Chris Richard. Everybody was like Chris Richard was the hot guy until that Rams game, and they dropped 270 on the rushing attack. Then you didn't hear about Chris Richard no more as the hot name. You know what I mean? So Kellen does have a lot of pressure from Dallas and whatever team is thinking about looking at him. But I'm just looking at the comments, and it keeps on coming back what I'm talking about. It's almost like I don't want to talk about nothing else. I'm not trying to, but listening to my dog, KMT, when he said, Chris Davis, this offensive line is the worst position group on the team, and then my Chris Davis has been going ham on the offensive line. But for real, it's the truth. Like, the offensive line, in my opinion, is overrated. Understand how I'm saying this, DDP, because it's everybody's always saying, oh, they're living off of what happened in 2014, man. It ain't 2014 no more. You ain't got Travis Frederick. You don't got what's the other, Ron Leary. You know what I mean? Tyron Smith is 30 now. Zach Martin is 31. Leo Collins had hip surgery. He's still coming back. Did you see what Milton Williams did to him in that game when he just picked him up and just threw him out the way?
Yeah.
He picked him up, and Milton Williams is 284.
Yeah,
he picked him up and threw him. Okay, so that was very alarming to me You get what I'm saying? And you're getting ready to go up against Armstead and Boza. Okay, this is not scared, but I'm going by what I'm seeing from this O-line, right? And it's overrated. Okay, that's why the first thing I said, DDP, in my tweet when I was watching that Niners game, you better be physical because they're coming after you every single play. And we've seen, DDP, this offensive line crack when teams start getting very good pressure, especially up front. We've seen this offensive line crack, man, and then it puts all that pressure on Dak. And then, like you said, we're pressing. That's the only thing keep coming in my head. That's why I said, Joe Philbin, get your butt with all your offensive linemen, and y'all better do something this week because that is the whole key of this damn game.
Yep.
That offensive line is the whole key to this damn game.
Yeah, I mean, look at the assets they've invested in it, not just the money, but the draft picks. McGovern as well. What they put into Connor Williams, like they've invested heavily in the offensive line. But the sad irony is that the offensive line's probably single best season. Everyone points to 2014, but I think they were better in 2015. The problem is you lost Romo, you lost Dez, you lost all these guys to injuries, and so that team never got off the ground after its 2-0 start because its season was basically already over. But that's just a different matter. But yes, I agree. The reputation has extended well beyond the actual production. Now we've seen glimpses early in the year before the New England game. I felt they really were playing good bully offensive line play. Like the running game was firing on all cylinders. Zeke looked as good as he's looked in probably 3 years. And Tony Pollard was having a sensational start as well. Now Pollard has been able to, because of his burst and flash, has been able to still have those moments here and there, but Zeke almost disappeared off the planet where suddenly it's like, well, yeah, but what he does in pass protection, like, yeah, that's great. It is. It's saving Dak's life at times, I feel like, but it's also one of those things where it's like, man, that's a high price for a running back that's going to get 9-10 carries for 40 yards. And, especially with, like you said, not doing 2-back sets means Pollard's not getting those touches. It's not like you're putting them out there together and still leaving that possibility open. It's, I don't know. It feels very much like it's playing almost a man down at times, or it's like, hey, it's a max protect situation, which is still good, but still, I think, limiting at times.
Right. And as I said, this is what I'm going back to. When I'm going back through the rushing games of Dallas, when they've had good rushing games, obviously Philly, but that was all backups, right?
Yeah.
When they had, and the Cardinals defense wasn't great to me, when they had to ran 45 for 45 yards against the Cardinals, right?
Yep.
You played the Washington football team. Yeah, they had a pretty good front, but we know about Washington. The Giants, Washington, Saints. That was one big run by Tony Pollard, the 50-something yard run, and got us over the hump, right?
That's what injured his foot.
That would injure his foot. But the teams that got real physical up front, like when the Broncos and the Chiefs, and even the Raiders, when they got real physical up front, Dallas didn't run the ball. They went away from it, and then it was pass happy all day, and that's where the balance goes away. So once again, I'm beating this drum right on the head. I'm killing this drum. I'm smashing this drum. People can say, big game, shut the F up about this offensive line. I will not be quiet about it. I know y'all might get tired of hearing it, but I'm going to keep beating this damn drum until Joe Philbin hears what I have to say. Joe Philbin, you understand what I'm telling you. You get that offensive line together and play physical, or it's going to be a long day for us.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. It boils down to the offensive line being able to, really control the game, keep Dak upright, create lanes for the running backs. And then for the running backs, particularly Zeke, he's got to have the burst and agility to skirt through those openings, because right now they're not able to sustain blocks as long, especially without holding. And that's why you've seen Pollard still find flashes and moments and not so much Zeke. So yeah, that's what it boils down to. But
And that's why I feel like also just listen to some of the comments because I'm kind of listening to them and I want to see what you're saying. I get ready to get this question up.
Yep, yep.
But that's the one of the reasons why, because Zeke is a bell cow now. So
Mhm.
it's like if the offensive line don't give him a little bit of space, he getting stopped for negative yards or 1 yard, and then we're going to have
Or
to go
back to
on
the
the
line of
pass,
scrimmage, yeah.
back to the line of scrimmage. And that's why I said that's why we need this Tony Pollard in these playoffs, dog, because you need that explosiveness. Because if that line is not getting up and somebody shoots through the gap, Tony Pollard has more of the wiggle and the explosiveness to maybe make that defender miss and
Mhm.
still be able to make some plays. Whereas Ezekiel Elliott don't do that no more. And he was still coming back from him having an injury bug too. But he was already not that guy like he was before.
Yeah.
Then you had an injury. The offensive line is not playing great. That's not a great formula for Ezekiel Elliott being great unless you're, like you said, you play some backups, but you need that explosiveness from Tony Pollard. But let me get this question up from Mr. 11-8 Demond. I'll be messing names up, man. I apologize.
11-8 mind.
See there, that's why I got DDP here. I
11-8
appreciate you.
mind.
That's why I got you here. I
Yeah.
appreciate you, big dog. Said, do y'all agree? Said Big Game James. Do y'all agree that our defense struggled against the run with the Eagles' backups?
Yes.
But I know Micah and Curse with D-Law will fix those gaping holes we had. Yes,
Was that anticlimactic that I immediately interrupted the question to agree?
No, it wasn't. It was because I wanted to say yes too. I didn't even want him to finish. I was looking at that. People were like, "Oh, Micah was out. They're gonna hold those edges down." Okay, but when Micah and Kurt's been in the games, team have still been able to run on us. Let's keep it real. Let's not just trumpet Dallas like it's everything is just glory.
Yeah.
We love our squad, dog. We're not backing off from loving our squad, DDP. But let's keep it real. Teams have run on us, even with Mike and them being there. And that was concerning to me how Gainwell was running on us like that.
Yep. Huntley. I mean, like, yeah, they were running on us with everybody. It was really concerning there in the first half. Like, I know, honestly, the game turned with their punter shanking a punt, like a 22-yard punt that allowed us to steal another touchdown before the half, kind of changed the complexion. And it felt like any fight that was in the Eagles went out at that point. So, like, it was a tune-up game. And on one hand, your offense went and scored every time it touched the ball, like of consequence. So you look at that and you're like, oh, perfect. But it's like you were so worried about fixing the offense, you didn't ask yourself whether or not the defense was still firing on all cylinders. Because their backup O linemen and running backs were kind of styling on you for a minute.
Yeah,
and the fact that you gave up back-to-back touchdown drives in that first half was concerning for sure. But I don't know. It's hard to put stock one way or the other in that game. So, like, I can say they need to clean it up and that they underperform, but does that mean that it's a trend and like, oh no, their run defense is getting bad? I don't know about that. Like, it kind of feels like the whole game is just a sort of aberration. And really the only takeaway was, hey, let's get Dak's confidence up. Let's get him connecting with some of these receivers. And I feel like they did that. I'm not as worried about the defense because, as I said, they're about trying to get off the field on third down,
right,
and turnovers,
right.
Not so much the other stuff. Like those,
right.
They do the two biggest things you could ask of them very well, generally.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna need that. Like I said, you were tops in the league with the turnovers. You must see turnovers in these playoffs. You can't be a team that was getting turnovers all season. Just like if you was an NBA basketball team, you over there with them Dallas Mavericks. You can't be a 3-point shooting team or a team that's been dominant that way. And then when you get to the playoffs, you can't hit one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That ain't gonna work. That's been your style. So Dallas needs to get those turnovers, and I feel like a big turnover early in that game, against the Niners, that's going to go a long way. As we get ready to kind of wind down here, DDP, but we kind of bouncing off the same things that's kind of standing out to us. Like I'm still tripping. I'm just telling you what I'm tripping off in this Eagles game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, y'all have y'all own opinion. This is strictly from Big Game James right here. Okay, I know it was backups and whatever. I don't care. It's all mental with me. I listen to Seth Joyner. I played the game. I coached. I'm not like saying it was all that, nothing like that. But the game is mental. And when you talk to a lot of these players, everybody saw it talking about physical. It's mental. And when you listen to these players, it's mental. Just like when I listened to Seth Joyner, he said, okay, yeah, Yeah, it was Cowboys and that we JV team, but I don't care. They dropped 51 freaking points on us, and that's gonna be bothering me going into the playoffs because we just going in there like we just happy to get there, and that's the way we played in this game. And you could get blown out in the playoffs having that type of mentality. It's real. So what I'm saying is, I'm bouncing off what you said when you were like, yeah, it was the backups. Is this an aberration or is this something that I got to just keep my eye on? That's what I was just keeping my eye on. Like, that was concerning to me that Huntley and Gainwell were getting them yards still, and a lot of our major guys were out there. It wasn't like they was playing a whole lot of backups on our defense. I know Micah was out. We understand that. But I said before, DDP, before the team played this game, somebody said, oh, well, that tweet aged well. And I said, I want to see this defense without Micah Parsons, and I want to see how it performs without Micah Parsons and see how it looks. And it was bothering me, DDP, when they dropped 17 points on Dallas that easy with starters and Micah being out. I was like, damn, are we not dynamic without it? It just seems like we went from superhero without our when we had our superhero, and then when our superhero wasn't there, it looked regular.
Yeah. No, absolutely, 100%. And I think I said something to that effect earlier. Like, you have Micah Parsons on this team. It's a top 10, borderline top 5 defense. You take them off, take them out of the game. This defense is middle of the pack, maybe even a hair below. And coming into the season, because I didn't realize how many people did know that Parsons was going to have this impact in year one. But coming into the season, that was kind of where people thought Dallas's defense would be, that they would be somewhere around the middle of the pack. And, I argue that might be enough for them to make a little bit of noise. But I expected the offense to be more consistent, but that's a different thing. So, yeah, it's entirely that. And there's a reason why when I wrote about how good this defense specifically could be, I used the word dynamic for the defense. I said it was the most dynamic defense in the playoff picture. And it wasn't because I was saying best. I was very specifically not saying the best. I was saying dynamic for its ability to create big plays, turnovers, even a threat to score on a given play, whether it's Diggs or heck, Anthony Brown has a pick 6 or 2, it seems like, to his ledger this year. So like, you got these guys who are taking the ball away and making huge plays, like timely fumbles forced. You got D-Law and Randy Gregory tipping interceptions to themselves, D-Law taking it to the house. Like, that's just an explosiveness and a dynamic element you just don't see many teams with one or two guys that can do. They might be pound for pound better, more complete defenses, but they're not as dynamic. So when Dallas is healthy and playing to its strength, it's near unstoppable of a defense. You have to wear them down and be patient and try to just keep control of the clock, like hit them with the run game and move the ball patiently against them, frustrate them by the lack of big play, that their ability to create a big play, frustrate them by denying them those turnovers. And then I think you can get in and wear them down a little bit. But with the Cowboys, it's just a matter of whether or not they're able to execute their game plan and create those situations. So that's what I want to see. I'm not seeing the same push from the defensive line the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it's health. I don't know if it's fatigue. But if you got them living in the backfield, that three-headed monster, Lawrence, Gregory, and Parsons, you're going to have a field day, and you can certainly run a table. But if you don't, it might be a little bit harder sledding for you and more stress on your secondary.
Exactly. And like I said, man, these are just things that I kept my eye on. A lot of people have been talking about in the chat how they were getting on the edges. Well, Dak on it. Debo Samuel and them like getting out on the edges, and they were getting on the edges on us, not crying about it. Now, I did listen to some of the people in the chat, and they were saying, well, Curse was out, Diggs was out, and Brown was out. But that, to me, wasn't why that was. If they were in the game, I don't feel like they would have been contributing to stopping the run game. Just me, y'all. Diggs, Curse. Now, Curse would have helped, but I don't feel like he would have been the whole thing of shutting down that run game. You get what I'm saying? So having not Micah Parsons was a huge difference, because when they go to that bear front, that Dan Quinn likes to go with that 4, and he likes to come with the 5 with Micah Parsons on the bear front and move him around for different mismatches that he can see. Listen to people in the chat. I was agreeing. LVE, Keanu Neal, they were peeling when they were peeling those runs. Everybody was on a man, but those openings are right there. And I'm going to watch tape. I know it just dropped, but Keanu Neal was late. LVE were late. And once people get hands on LVE, it's almost like he done. You know what I mean? For all that size he has, he's not the physical linebacker. And that's been his kind of MO since he's came in the league. And I think that was a thing that was bothering me too, is when they were hat on hat and the linebackers had the opening to make the play, they were a step late. And I didn't like that, because that can happen when you're going against those guys as far as Samuel and what they're going to be running as far as their offense and what they're going to be trying to attack you with. Those linebackers and Keanu Neal and LVE are going to have to play big. I definitely feel like the defensive line is going to step up, but those linebackers right there, because you don't have depth right there, you don't have anything that you can hold your hat on besides those guys. So Keanu Neal and LVE, listen to me, bruh. Just like I told this offensive line, I ain't nobody, but LVE and Keanu Neal, y'all need to step the hell up.
I agree, 100%.
So there it is, man. So great little show today, man. My dog DDP, man, I really appreciate you, bro, jumping in here. We have been talking about it. Me and DDP are going to start banging out one show a week out here, so we're just going to figure out a day. We're going to start banging out a show once a week, especially with the offseason coming up. We got a lot of stuff we can talk about, man. We got a lot of stuff getting ready to go on, so I'm really excited about that. You know, we always say, hey, let everybody know yet, but I mentioned it, but I want him to tell you. DDP, my dog, Dallas prospect, writes, just graduated school. Man, this man doing, let me tell you something. I'll tell you, this man doing everything. Dallas Mavericks basketball, be at the games, covering them. If you love basketball, especially if you're a Mavericks fan, I'm telling you, that's the channel you need to go to. I'm trying to tell you, you need to go to that channel for Dallas Maverick Dallas Maverick basketball, excuse me. And then, as I said before, my guy's writing with the Blogging of the Boys. Always was a great writer. He's inspired me. I was able to write pieces on his channel. I was blessed enough for him to allow me to, show my writing skills. And if you really go check out Blogging the Boys and look at the articles written by Derek Kirby, they're really top notch, man. So go ahead and kind of let them know where they can check you out too, Twitter and all those handles. But my guy really has this stuff going on over there.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Check me out on Twitter and everything. I kind of simplified it recently, so I just updated it to be my name. So I just threw it in the chat there. Just Derek W. Kirby is Twitter and all of that. But yeah, check out the channel, the Dallas Prospect. A lot of Mavericks content, obviously getting some back into some Cowboys content as well. Been writing for Blogging the Boys all season. You can also find Mavericks content that I write for Mavs Moneyball, The Smoking Cuban. I pretty much write everywhere. I've obsessively been writing over the past couple of years, trying to improve, hone my craft, sharpen my skills, and build up towards eventually going full-time with the Dallas Prospect. That is the ultimate goal, and building what we've been kind of talking about for a while. So check me out on social media, follow the content, consider giving a subscription, and that's really it. But Dallas Prospect, every legend was once a prospect. Always love the tagline. Always got to hit that out there.
Yes. Love it. We just got to subscribe to my dog.
Appreciate you, man.
Day Walker, Vaughn just got a subscriber over there to you. We just got, I think my guy DJ said we got to get 100 in here, and we had 99. So whoever in the building, hit that 100, hit that like, so we can get that 100 likes up in here, because that'll make me feel good. Let me know we banged out that show today. So really excited, man, as we getting ready for these playoffs, man. It's a rivalry renewed. One thing I name my top 5 teams as we get ready to head out here, DDP. I name my top 5 teams I hate. I hate the Washington football team, the Niners, the Steelers, the Packers, and the Eagles. And it's kind of, I think it's like in that order of my hatred for them. But the hatred I have for the Niners is a respect hatred.
Kind of like the Mavericks and Spurs.
Yes, it's a respect hatred. Like I can't stand y'all, but I got mad respect for y'all. When I watched them I watched them in the '80s when they broke our heart in the '80s with Dwight Clark. I was watching that game live.
Yeah.
I cried. Okay, so and then in the '90s, I remember all those battles. But I couldn't stand them, but I always respected them. Like every
Mhm.
time I knew the Dallas Cowboys were going to play the Niners, that was going to be a game. Like Dallas, don't come in here playing around with this team. You may come around and fool around with some other teams, but the Niners are never a team to fool with because that's always been like a personal rivalry battle. So
Mhm.
they're always going to give it to you. It's never going to be no, oh, we just got the Niners. No, it's never that game. So Mike McCarthy, talk to your players. I know they wasn't. I know they was young. I know they didn't know about that. I know they didn't. But like you showed them Washington games, show them Niners, show
Yeah.
them 90s, show them because that'll make them understand how important it is when you playing against this team because they're going to be over there saying that too. They're going to be going over there chirping and all that stuff. So show the history, show what it is. Bring Troy in the locker room. Bring Aikman in. I mean, bring Emmett in. Bring some old guys in there and letting you know about this rivalry so y'all can make sure y'all soak it up. So when that playoffs come Sunday, y'all understand the magnitude of it and you don't come in there slipping or that's not matching that energy. That's all I
Yeah.
really got to say about that. And I'll let you get your final speak and we'll walk off on your talk.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's obviously a storied history and everything like that. I do think that there is a little bit of something if you bring in the legends and you make part of your time and your focus on that and you kind of build around that. I do think you can inspire the team a little bit. If you're going that approach, that's one thing. But if you were to ask the guys right now about it without doing that whole thing, I don't know if it would resonate in the same way. I'm kind of reminded of week 6 as they were heading to New England. Dak Prescott was asked in a press conference after practice one day whether or not whether or not the Cowboys, having not beaten New England at the time since 1987, was like getting the monkey off of their back finally. And Dak's response was kind of like, I'm not thinking about that at all. Like I've played New England like once. Like, so at most in my mind,
Right,
it's like
right,
0
right,
for
right.
1. So like, that's the focus. That's the mindset is like, these guys, they didn't grow up with it. Now, I know Dak was a Cowboys fan, so maybe it's a little different with him and the 49ers. But I'm saying, like, unless it's like a personal rivalry that they've experienced, the fact that a rivalry existed and was really heated 20, 30 years ago is not going to resonate the same way unless you approach it from the angle you said. So I think the main thing is if you're the Cowboys, you can, if it inspires you, be inspired. But at the same time, you haven't been to the NFC Championship game in a quarter century. Your only focus should be seek and destroy, no matter what the laundry across from you says. That's my mindset is you got to beat whoever's in front of you. It doesn't matter what happened 20, 30 years ago. Just go out there and try to kick their ass and move on about your business.
There it is. I mean, I can't speak it any better than that. Go in there, handle your business, and kick ass. There should be nothing else. And we're going to end it on that, man. We appreciate you guys. Check my guy DDP out, Dallas Prospect, blogging of the boys. Let's get this W. We got more shows along the week. Make sure you check out the final word tomorrow is going down. That's going to be an explosive show. And then check out the shows during the week, the videos. Go like, support, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're going to do a quick members meeting. Y'all let me know if y'all want to do it today or tomorrow because I'm kind of tired. It's almost 11. I'll talk to y'all, man. We'll figure it out. Okay. But I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We're going to head out of here, DDP. I'm going to just close it all the way out and just go out with the music. And then I'm going to hit you up on the text and we're going to talk outside of this. All right, big
Sounds good,
dog.
man.
All right, man.
Peace.
Appreciate y'all. Peace. We out.